I'm Longworth, and welcome to another edition of Triad Today, coming to you once again from our home away from home, the Senior Botanical Garden in Connersville. It's beautiful. I hope you'll visit it. We'll tell you more about them later on, and speaking of later on, that's when the roundtable shows up. We'll get into all sorts of controversies with them, but I hope you'll stay with us through the entire half hour, which will include a discussion about senior care. But first, we turn our attention to higher education and to someone who has benefited from it. And we turn to our good friend who's been on the show many, many times before, Mark Walker, and you know him because he's a former congressman. He's now officially a candidate for the U.S. Senate seat being vacated by Richard Burr. That's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about him, you, as an alumnus of what's now Carolina University. Welcome to the show again.
Well, thanks, Jim. It's always a privilege to be with you.
When you attended Carolina University, and I believe at that point it was called Piedmont International.
That is correct.
And it now as then, it always had sort of a strong core of theology and Bible studies. So those that know you from your career know that you're a minister. Is that why you were attracted to Carolina University in the first place?
Yeah, I believe it was. I had worked in business and finance for about 5 or 6 years, and moving to North Carolina in 1991, doing something I swore that I would never do, and that would be follow my father's footsteps as a minister.
Right.
But the more I read and the more I studied about, at that time, Piedmont International University, the more I believed it would provide the proper education for me to go and serve, get my education in theology, the degrees there that were needed. And so it provided a wonderful place to do so.
So really, that's kind of an interesting response, because normally when I talk to people about careers, oh yeah, I planned it out since I was 9 years old or whatever, but you're actually saying that Carolina University has sort of an impact on you to go that direction.
Yes, I met my wife, who is family nurse practitioner over at Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center, and the more we kind of prayed through this process, obviously being in Winston-Salem, from the convenience and the great education, we said this was just a natural fit, and yeah, we went back.
How did Carolina University prepare you to be an effective congressman?
Well, first of all, that's a great question. In all the years, I don't know if anybody's put the two together, but the equipping of meeting with people from all walks of life and all backgrounds. There's a motto there at Piedmont, now Carolina University: the sun never sets on the people who graduated work around the world. And to look at that from an international perspective, especially the different backgrounds and peoples, the different communities, that was something that really touched my heart and really propelled me to go and do work in the inner cities of places like Cleveland, New York, and Baltimore later on in my ministry.
And sort of as a follow-up to that, and we've talked about on the show before with Dr. Pettit and other folks, that Carolina University, a lot of people don't know this, has one of the most diverse student populations in the nation. And that was sort of not to do a commercial for you, but as a congressman, that was always sort of a priority in being sensitive to diversity issues, right?
There's no question, and it played a factor in my role. Of course, my father and some of his work in some of the prison ministry, but last year, being the only Republican in the entire U.S. House to win the United Negro College Foundation President's Award, I contribute back to some of the education that I'd received looking at this from a different perspective.
Now, you were also a commencement speaker for Carolina University not too long ago. And just in the short time, I don't know what year that was, but in the short time since you were the speaker, there's been tremendous growth, just unreal growth. I mean, I'm going to look at my notes, 15 new degree programs, including an engineering school. The graduates are more in demand than ever before. This doesn't surprise you, does it?
Oh, you talking about because of my graduation speech, or was it?
No, I don't know.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
I listen, Dr. Charles Pettit, the vision that he brought with, anytime you're trying to bring about change, it's met with some resistance. But his vision that he had to be able to build something larger right here in the Triad is really paying big dividends now, and I applaud him for the great work.
Up on screen, I want to give a plug for Dr. Pettit and the university. www.carolinau.edu gives you all sorts of information, great programs, academic programs, great atmosphere over there. And I think it was particularly interesting to have someone who is a graduate and a successful one at that. And speaking of success, we wish you success in your campaign and in all other things, Mark.
Thanks, Jim. Always good to see you, my friend.
All right, sir. We'll be right back. Back now on Triad Today. There's been a lot of information out there about COVID vaccines. Is it available? Is it safe? Who should take it? Who shouldn't? And one thing I'd like to share with you now, two very noted physicians who I respect a lot and know them, shared their experiences, their personal experiences, what they think about the vaccine, which they have taken, And so let's watch Dr. David Priest, Dr. Pam Oliver, get their thoughts.
I'm David Priest. I'm an infectious diseases physician and the Chief Safety and Quality Officer at Novant Health. We're very excited about the COVID-19 vaccine. This vaccine uses a new technology that actually teaches your cells to fight the virus. It's incredibly safe. There are some things you need to look out for at the time you get the vaccine, and we call these expected effects. When you get the vaccine, you may have a sore arm, you may have some redness around the site, you could have a little bit of fever even, maybe have some malaise. These types of expected effects will really last just a few hours and then will quickly go away. They may be a little bit more common when you get the second dose, but after that they go away and you'll be protected against this virus going forward.
I'm Dr. Pam Oliver, obstetrician gynecologist and president of the Novant Health Physician Network. This is truly a historic day, and it was important for me to be here with our teams today, cheering them on, but also letting them know how much confidence I have in this vaccine and in our efforts to start moving towards healing. I've committed my life and my career to taking care of patients, to taking care of our entire community. And so it pains me to see the devastation that COVID-19 has had on all aspects of our community and our lives. And it pains me to see how tired, overwhelmed our teams are. And so I'm excited that this could be a light at the end of the tunnel, that this could be the beginning of the end, that our communities can move towards healing and our teams can start to get some peace and rest. So I am praying that our entire community embraces this vaccine so that we can get back to normal and stop the spread. I want our communities to know that it is normal and okay to question. And I know there's a lot of skepticism about this vaccine, and for good reason. It is unprecedented and historic in lots of ways, but especially for the African American community, I want us to know that it is important to put our past in perspective so that it frames how we move forward, but not let it get in the way of progress. And our communities are being devastated by this virus, and we really need to embrace this vaccine and trust those who look like me, look like you, who've been part of this vaccine development, who have critically evaluated all of the data, and can truly tell you that we trust this vaccine to help us heal, and that we need you and want you to embrace getting vaccinated so our communities can begin to get back to something that's more normal and healthy.
I got the COVID-19 vaccine because I know what it means for our communities and for the safety of myself and my family. This pandemic has had a devastating effect on so many people, and it's had a devastating effect on my family. I haven't been able to see my mother in a year. She has a history of cancer, and thankfully she's gotten through all the treatments, but I didn't want to run the risk of her getting COVID-19 from me when I went to visit her. So I've decided to stay away, and so when I heard it was my turn to get the COVID-19 vaccine, I was incredibly excited about that because I knew what it meant in terms of keeping her safe. I'll be very excited to get the second dose coming up, and I'm very excited for what the COVID-19 vaccine means for the safety of our communities.
Well, my thanks to Dr. David Priest, Dr. Pam Oliver for sharing their personal observations about the safety and availability of the COVID-19 vaccine. Up on screen, website I hope you'll check out, www.novanthealth.org for the radio listening audience. Again, novanthealth.org. We'll be on Triad Today. Always glad when we can spend a few minutes with the good folks from Ridge Care and all the great work they do in caring for our seniors. And we have two very special guests with us. One who's been here with us a couple times before. On my immediate right, Taylor Thornton is Director of Community Relations for Ridge Care. Been in this community doing lots of great things for many years. And Taylor brought a special guest with her. She is socially distanced behind me. Donna Jones is, among other things, a nurse, but you're also resident services consultant for Ridge Care Senior Living. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I'm going to come to you in just a second, Donna, but I want to start with Taylor. Remind us just very quickly, in case somebody just moved into the area, doesn't know, what's the mission for Ridge Care and who do you serve?
So our mission is local folks serving local folks. We're a Kernersville-based company, and we're here to help make the transition from home to a senior living community as smooth as possible and as easy as possible for families.
And lots of locations and lots of different types of facilities that you can handle with assisted care and other things. And we'll give the website a little bit later. People can find out more about that. Donna, explain to me your role as a resident care consultant. What does that mean?
Well, a resident care consultant looks at the daily needs of the resident, including clinical and emotional needs, and make sure that their care plans are really a reflection of what they need.
Now, you just said the term plan, so let me come back at you with this. An individual care plan. And I think you and Taylor emailed me something about that. Explain to the folks and to me what an individual care plan is.
So with an individual care plan, every person is different. We have different ways we do things. We have different ways that we get dressed. We have different ways we eat. So we look at what makes the individual function at their optimum level.
Oh, okay.
And so that's what it is.
So you're offering, some great services to all the residents, but then trying to tailor how that service is going to be applied, right?
That's right.
Why is that so important? I mean, some people could say, well, wait a minute, Donna. I mean, everybody can go eat in the dining room or whatever. I mean, why is it important to have that individual plan?
Because we are really focused on the quality of life for each resident and making everything a memorable experience for them.
Taylor, let me come back to you. And I alluded to in the introduction that you've been a long-time resident and contributor to, speaking of quality of life things, really working on behalf of a lot of folks in the Kernersville area for many years, even before joining RidgeCare. Why is it so important that we have a special guest with us today, Donna, talking about these individual care plans, talking about how somebody in her position can help people in the community? Why is that so important for us to know?
Well, it goes back to our mission, local folks serving local folks. We want everyone in Kernersville to know Donna and to know how wonderful she is. I know that because I get to work with her every day, but I want everybody else to see that and to know that you can trust us, you can trust Donna. Our number one priority is your loved ones' health and safety and well-being. And so by getting to know Donna on a personal level, we can absolutely make sure that that happens. And we want everyone to feel completely comfortable because moving is hard, especially during this transition, and we want to be able to provide that extra support.
So if I need to move a parent, and I went through these kind of things with my parents when they were still alive, but just for the purposes of the conversation, if I feel like I need to reach out and get more information, is it something I can call you and talk about?
Yes, you can call me and talk to me about the needs of your parent. And, we talk, we're available. We talk about clinical aspects. We talk about day-to-day, what, did the person work the day shift, night shift?
Right.
What did they like to do? So we can, have a nice holistic approach and how this person is going to engage.
I think that's great. Will you come back sometime? We can find out
Sure.
more about you?
Yes.
Not everything about you, but I want to ask everything about it. On screen, ridgecare.com is the website, and you can call area code 336-310-4819, 310-4819. That's ridgecare.com, and they're so good at helping people and sitting down and talking with you and family members and loved ones, so please get in touch with them. Thank you, ladies, for doing this.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. On Triad Today, always glad when we can spend a few minutes with who I call Mr. Theater. In fact, on Dave Briggs' birth certificate, it doesn't say Dave Briggs, it says Mr. Theater. I don't know, it's a little known fact. Director of High Point Theater, welcome back, sir.
Thanks, Jim. It's always great to be here.
Folks around here know you for ages anyway, for all the great stuff you do and the performers you brought into the theater and on this show, and they know about all that. But what a lot of folks don't realize is that they can hold meetings and have meeting spaces in the High Point Theater. I didn't even know that. Now, talk about your capabilities in that regard.
Sure. The official name for our building is High Point Theater and Exhibition Center.
Oh, I didn't realize
Yeah.
that.
So when it was chartered in 1975, that's what's on the list. So we have the auditorium, which holds up to 900 people. Of course, we're not sure exactly what that's going to be once social distancing gets done. But we also have 3 gallery spaces that we have that Theater Art Galleries puts art in those, about 4 different exhibits a year. But we're also available for meetings and conferences and lunches and receptions,
civic
and so on.
groups, business meetings, whatever. That's amazing,
Yeah.
and they're pretty good venues, you think, for these, right?
I think they're perfect. Our largest room, what we call the main gallery, we're really fancy. We really like to name things in High Point. So the main gallery is 3,000 square feet. So comfortably, you can seat about 100, 120 people.
Just in
there.
that main gallery?
In that main gallery.
That's pretty neat. Now,
Yeah.
is there a fee for this? If I say, hey, I'd like to bring over 100 people and have this meeting, and I'm going to cater in some knickknacks or whatever, do I pay you a fee? Or?
We do, and it's very reasonably priced. So it's $100 an hour for all of our gallery spaces, for each one per hour, and then it's $5 for a table and $1 for a chair, because we have to obviously collect money for replacement
Right.
costs for those
Right.
equipment. Plus, we also have linen service available.
Sure.
On a as needed basis.
So you can
at
help
no
out with
charge.
all that stuff. All right, let's switch
Yeah.
back into the auditorium.
Sure.
The latest governor's orders, I can't keep up with them.
Yeah.
What's going on with that in terms of, I know you can figure out how to socially distance people
Right.
to sit in the theater, but what's going on?
Well, we're waiting for the next executive order to come in, and currently we're at 50%, but socially distanced in a 900-seat hall for us, we think 320 to 380 is the number that we can actually get in socially distanced. We're expecting a new executive order to come out either this week or early next week.
We're taping on a Wednesday,
Yeah,
so they
so
could come out
could come
by
out
the
this
time it
afternoon,
airs.
or
Yeah,
it could
okay.
come out next Tuesday.
Okay.
They've been canceling press conferences with the governor because basketball coaches have been resigning. So
Yeah, yeah. Who knows? That's priority. Anyway, there's something called a shuttered venue operations grant. Very quickly, what's that? What's the update on that?
Well, the federal government gave, it's $19 billion for shuttered venues. It was supposed to have opened up the first part of April, but in typical governmental fashion, it shut down almost immediately, and now they're anticipating that it will reopen again for applications on the 26th of April. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but
It might help.
If it does help, if it happens and we're able to apply and fully and get accepted, it will assist us.
Quick plug for the Miss North Carolina Scholarship Pageant.
Yeah, so the Miss North Carolina Scholarship Pageant had annually been taking place in Raleigh. We've been courting them for a number of years here in High Point, and we're able to land them, and we're hoping to make High Point the permanent home, and that we've always hosted, well, we've hosted for the last 14 years, the Miss North Carolina USA pageant.
Right.
This is the Miss North Carolina Scholarship Pageant, which is part of Miss America.
And still a good time to try to get your tickets for the upcoming shows as we're going further into the summer and into the fall and into next year. And of course, up on screen some information, www.highpointtheater. Make sure you got two T's together there, High Point Theater, highpointtheater.com. And this is important, call 887-3001, 887-3001. And that's not only for tickets, but I guess it'd be a good number to call if you want to book a meeting, as we were talking about having
They'll
big meetings.
transfer you right to me.
All right, are you going to stay over for the roundtable?
I'll do it.
All right. Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
We'll be right back. On Triad Today, just about time for the roundtable, but another shout out to our good folks here at the Senior Botanical Garden. Their website is on screen, seniorbotanicalgarden.org. Don't just visit a website, come on out to the garden. It's beautiful this time of year. Speaking of beautiful, I got three beautiful folks with us. Next to me, I know that sounded kind of weird. Next to me on the right, but always political left, Ogie Overman, the great broadcaster and journalist. Socially distanced behind him, we held Dave Briggs over, Mr. Theater, from his segment. And rounding out the group, as always, Keith Cranberry, founder of Helping Hands Consultants. Guys, we're not going to talk about the George Floyd, Derek Chauvin trial, but only in the sense that now it's time to do reforms. It's past time. Now, in that regard, we know state legislatures are going to be important. In North Carolina, two things I want to bring up real quick and get your opinion on this. One bill that our state legislators are looking at is to require the officers to intervene if they see another officer abusing power or excessive force. Another bill would make it illegal for any locality in North Carolina to hire an officer who's been banned from being an officer in another department somewhere else. Give me your thoughts on this. Will this make a real difference, Ogie?
Actually, I'm okay with both of them, Jim. I think it's not the whole solution, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. I think so.
Dave?
I think the first one might actually make a difference, but I also think a lot of officers have intervened in the past. So I think this just puts a little teeth to that. In regards to the second thing, that might be a civil liberties issue if you're denying somebody employment.
Hadn't thought about that. Keith, what do you think?
I think you should deny someone employment if they've done things wrong and are trying to be a servant of the community. The first thing I think is important is that we know that many times officers aren't intervening in these processes. Look at George Floyd. I mean, there was several officers there while this guy was had his knee on his neck.
So these bills would make a difference?
I don't know if that make a difference. You gotta hire common sense police officers who are part of the community.
All right. Now let's go to politics a little bit. Former Governor Pat McCrory, who's been on this show many times before, is now officially running for the U.S. Senate seat being vacated by Richard Burr. This puts him against former Congressman Mark Walker, who was on this show earlier, by the way, and possibly Laura Trump, possibly Ted Budd in next year's Republican primary. Who gets the Republican nomination if you were to call it right now, Ogie?
You know, they're all worthy candidates except the Trump girl. Any of the other three are going to make a worthy opponent for Jeff Jackson.
Yeah,
I
and you think
I don't
okay.
know who probably McCrory might be the front runner, but Mark Walker's known too.
Dave?
Yeah, I agree. I think Pat McCrory has the name recognition. I like Mark Walker a lot. Really like Ted Budd. Laura Trump reminds me a little bit of Elizabeth Dole when she was able to become a senator here in North Carolina.
Came in without having spent a lot
It was
of time.
a lot of name recognition and not a lot of political experience.
Keith, who wins the Republican nomination?
I think that it's between. I think McCrory is gonna win. That's what I think.
All right. We'll see what happens as this transpires and whoever gets in the race. A Forsyth legislator wants to create state-run facilities where you can legally bet on pro and college sports so long as the revenues go to support public school construction. Good idea or bad idea, Ogie?
You know, I'm not much of a gambler, Jim. I'm a sports fanatic, but I don't gamble almost never on sports, so I'm against it.
All right, Dave.
Well, they have OTB in a lot of states, Nevada, New York, California. I think California has that. I don't know. Are we really getting the benefit that we have out of the education lottery?
No, as a matter of fact, the Winston-Salem Journal, Greensboro News and Record wrote a really nice editorial about how we're not spending the monies we should be spending from the lottery. But anyway,
I think it makes people spend money that they probably don't have.
So if the gambling thing goes through and supports public school construction, what do you think, Keith?
I think it's okay. I mean, we already have gambling. That's called a lottery.
Yeah.
People are gambling with their money when they buy a lottery ticket.
All right, another North Carolina figure let's talk about, the son of late Billy Graham. Reverend Franklin Graham recently won a lawsuit in England where a bus company had banned his ads for his crusade because they didn't like his views on LGBTQ issues. Now, do you think media outlets, whether it's a bus or a TV or radio station or newspaper, should be allowed to ban an ad if it disagrees with the religious views of the advertiser, Ogie?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. I've done it. I've refused ads for certain groups that I vehemently opposed.
When you were editor of and
Jamestown News,
okay,
and ESP Magazine, and the Greater Greensboro Observer. I
was really surprised that he won that lawsuit in England. There is no First Amendment in England that protects free speech and advertisers. I don't have a problem with advertisers denying things, but who becomes the police on that?
Right, so if a TV station says, we don't like your views on something, Keith, we're not going to run your ad.
Well, I think if the ads are something that's going to cause consternation in the community or harm to the community, you should have the right to refuse that. Absolutely.
All right. Very briefly, don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but we talked about daylight savings time before, but now there's a bill in front of the state legislature considering to make daylight savings time permanent. Quickly, guys, good idea or bad idea, Ogie?
I like it. I'm okay with it. I like daylight.
Dave Briggs.
I like the extra hours. It might affect some school children in the wintertime going to the bus stops at night.
Mr. Granberry.
I like it.
You like, everybody likes it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Finally, guys, West Virginia is paying $12,000 cash to anyone who will move to their state so long as you agree to work remotely. I guess they're hoping for social distancing stuff and boosting the economy. Guys, would you move to West Virginia for $12,000? Ogie?
I told a joke one time in here to the crew and everybody about West Virginia that we can't repeat on the air, but I wouldn't.
No.
My wife said she would, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, Dave?
I really love West Virginia, but I don't think that's enough money.
$12,000 to move, Keith?
$12,000 for you to move?
No.
You pay me $12,000. I'll send you to West Virginia.
You know what? There's something wrong with Keith. We're going to study it later. Well, that's all Fortunately, that's all the time we have. Oh, except for this. Last week, speaking of Great Britain, we talked about earlier, a woman in Great Britain gave birth to twins, which isn't that unusual, except for the fact that she conceived the second baby while she was pregnant with the first. I don't understand what happened, said her husband. It's a mystery, said her ruggedly handsome doctor. I don't know what does that mean, Ogie?
Well, let
Never
me
mind.
explain it to
All right,
you
we'll
out
be,
there, Jim.
that's all. We'll see you next week.